Hello, welcome. Thanks for joining our diagnostic training session today. If you have any questions throughout the session, if you're watching us on Zoom, just make sure to look at the top or the bottom of your screen, wherever your Zoom controls are. Click on the little Q&A button there. It'll open a new window. You can type in your question, hit submit, and then I'll be able to answer those questions at the end of the session. If you're joining us live on YouTube, you can feel free to use the live chat function on YouTube, wherever it is on your device, wherever you happen to be watching it. Just use the live chat, ask your questions there, and I'll be more than happy to answer them at the end of the session, as I said. So my name is Jason Gambrinas. I'm one of Snap-on's national diagnostic technical trainers. Been in the training department for the last 8 years, traveling around North America, helping technicians and shop owners get the most out of their diagnostic equipment that they have. Before that, it was a couple years as a diagnostic sales rep with Snap-on. So I had 30 different Snap-on franchisees I worked with, as well as the shops that they serviced to help everyone get the most out of their diagnostic needs. Then before that, it was 8 years at Subaru. So I was a diagnostic technician, or should I say became a diagnostic technician, working at a Subaru dealership. So always ended up with those drivability problems, those intermittent problems, the weird wiring problems that seem to show up on a lot of those cars. And that's really where I cut my diagnostic teeth, was trying to figure out all those weird head scratcher type problems that would come into my bay. Then before that, a bunch of other miscellaneous wrenching jobs. Been a little over 25 years experience under hood for me. And tonight's topic is going to be something a little bit different. So this is going to be scan tool power user functions. These are going to be some little golden nuggets, hidden gems, if you want to call it that, inside the scan tool that you might not be aware about. Some of them have been put in the last few years, and I guess we really just didn't tell anybody that they're there. And some things work on certain cars if they have that capability. So we're going to talk through a few different things, and it's going to be all live. So let's go through first on my Zeus. Okay, so the first few items we're going to talk about is going to be dealing with data. Now, scan data, data management, right? So we're going to go into the scanner, and we're going to start with just our standard Chevy Tahoe that we always use, our demonstration vehicle, because that makes it nice and easy for us. We'll go in here. I'm going to pull up our vehicle information. We'll just hit OK. It says it's in demonstration mode, and we'll hit continue. So we talk a lot about in these classes about intelligent diagnostics and using intelligent diagnostics to help with our diagnostic procedure. But what if I don't have a code? If I don't have a code, there is no intelligent diagnostics to access, right? So if we don't have a code, we may still want to look at data or other information in the module. So we can go to the individual modules down here on the bottom. So if I go into engine, and in this case, I want to look at my data display. Now on this vehicle, you'll see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 15, 16, 21 different data categories. It's a lot of data. It's like data overload nowadays, and we always talk about that too. So I'm just going to pull up engine data first, and there's a lot of data there. Right, there is. I'm not even going to bother counting, but there's a ton because I can scroll both sides. Right, it's a lot of data to manage, a lot of data to go through. Now, one thing I want to mention from this first screen is you may have noticed, you may not have noticed, a couple updates ago, we added in this next data group button. So we're in engine data now. I go to next data group. That is going to bring me to whatever the next data group is. So let's see which one it was. So misfire data is next. And then we can go next as well. So it goes forward, it doesn't go backwards. So you have to cycle through them all if you want to go to next data group, or you could simply hit exit and go back into whatever data group you want to. So I'll go back into engine data as well. Okay, so as we said, a lot of data going on, navigating through here. You know, we can graph. So I'll just open a few graphs here. We can have three on a side on a Windows-based tool. So that gives us a total of 6. Now, what if I wanted to look at more? I can open more. And by the way, just so you know, this seems to catch people up every once in a while, is whatever you open last goes to the top. So when you open it, it just shoots to the top of the screen. So if you want to have it at the top, just open it last. So let's see. I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to open a few of these here. And you'll see the reason for it in a minute. You just scroll through and you see when it opens up to the top, everything shuffles down. So I have 6 on the screen right now. I can look at a max of 6 on this screen, but On the Windows-based tools, we have an option at the top called Graph View. So if we go into Graph View, we can look at up to 16 graphs on a screen at a time. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 12, 13, 14 I have right here. You see, I got room for 2 more. So I could go through and check up to 16 things at a time. Maybe I wanted to watch misfire counts on something more than a 6-cylinder at the same time. I could do that. If I wanted to monitor multiple oxygen sensors and multiple other sensors at the same time, I could do that. Multiple values across the board. So I could look at up to 16 PIDs at a time using a Windows-based tool. Now, you do also have a way of looking at 16 PIDs at a time with a non-Windows-based tool. So let me switch over to my Triton here. And let's go through the same thing. Now, I'm always wanting to click on the screen, but it's a touch screen. I can't do that. So I'll load my demonstration vehicle again. There we go. Load the Chevy. Pretty quick. Demo mode. And then we'll go in engine. Okay, so we'll go to data and then engine data. Okay, so once again, if you wanted to go to the next data category, you have that button right there, and that will bring you to the next data category. So that's on non-Windows based tools. So Tritons, Apollo, Solus, Modus, they would have that function there. And then as far as to go to view 16 PIDs at once, well, we can't do it in here. We can view up to 4 on a screen at once, right? So if I go up here, I can click that, and then I get my 4 graphs. But I can also scroll through them, right? We can just scroll up and down through the data. Data records as we scroll too, which is nice. But if I wanted to view 16 PIDs at a time on this particular vehicle, I will record it and then I will save it. So all I got to do is hit the little save button up on the top right-hand corner. It's going to save the movie. Takes a little bit of time depending on how long the movie is. And then what we'll do is we can open it in a free software that we have on our PC called ShopStream Connect. So I'm going to go into connect this to PC mode first. So then another nice thing that we have on the Apollo D9 and the Triton D10 now is it has this little slide out window when we hit the home button. So we can go back and forth, keep that scanner running, and I can go back to my tools and I can go into connect to PC mode because I want to be able to connect to that free ShopStream Connect program there. So as that is cycling through, we're going to see it come in. Here is my tool. This is my my Triton D10, right? So it works just like Windows Explorer, File Explorer. It can go through and look at the different files. So if we look up over here on the right, here's everything that is stored on the tool. These are going to be scope patterns, the SCP files. BMPs are going to be screenshots. XML will be code scan. And then right here, I have SCM, which is going to be my scanner movie. So if I double click that, it's going to open up in my scanner data viewer on my other monitor. There we go. So if you look across the top, well, if we look across the left, here's all the PIDs that are available. All right, so it's everything that was recorded on the vehicle. And then if I go up top to where it says 16, I can look at 16 PIDs at a time on this tool. Now, I can't do it live while connected to the vehicle. It doesn't work that way. We do have to save it and watch it later. But then you can still go through it and look at up to 16 things if you wanted to do so. We can just play it back from the beginning. Another nice thing that we can do in here is grab a PID and we can drag them. If I wanted to rearrange it, maybe I want to look at my fuel trim, right? So I can bring that up there. And on my oxygen sensor, I can bring that up there. So we can shuffle them around by clicking and dragging wherever we want them on the screen, up to 16 at a time. And then, of course, we can scroll down through them 16 at a time. So now I can see where they are over here. It's way down at the bottom, so it's kind of hard to see, but you can see my 16 block window over here on the left. That is where, those are the PIDs that I'm looking at. All right, so that we can look at 16 PIDs on either tool. All right, okay. One's live and one we have to save. Oops, I do want to close that. There we go. Okay. Okay, so that is looking at 16 PIDs at once. Let me exit this. And we switch back to Zeus. Zeus is still recording in the background. All right, so that's the first thing. I'll go back to data. So I can look at 16 PIDs at once, but what if I only want to look at, I have dozens of PIDs here. Like I said, I'm not even going to count how many there are, but there's dozens of PIDs on the screen. What if I only wanted to look at maybe half a dozen things? Well, this is probably the most well-known of these features that we're going to talk about tonight is going to be the custom data list. All right, so if you have a Windows tool like a Veris or a Zeus, we have the button that says custom on the top. You can click on that. I can deselect all of them, and then maybe I want to look at RPM, desired RPM. Let's look at some oxygen sensors, I guess. So we'll do bank 1 sensor 1, bank 2 sensor 1, and so on. And then maybe my fuel trims too, right? Short term, long term. Once I've done that, I can go back to the list and be back where I was, or I can go to graph view, which will give me just the graphs on the screen. So if I go to graph view, I'm going to see my 3, 6, 9, 10 graphs. Or if I can go to list view, it goes back the way it was, just open as a graph. So I can close these, bring them back to numbers, have them the way they were, right? Now, one other benefit of custom data lists, not just making it easier to manage the data on the screens, there's a lot there, so that'll trim down your list. The other nice thing it gives us is it'll help speed up the refresh rate of the data too, and give us better resolution in there, depending on the vehicle. Some vehicles, it's just that they barely send any data at any rate of speed that's usable. But a lot of times, especially on the newer vehicles, they're sending data so fast that we can catch it a lot faster when we only have to process 6 at a time or 4 at a time or however many you choose that way. All right, so that is custom data on the Zeus. Now, if we were to go back here to the Triton, non-Windows based tools can do the same thing with a custom data list. It's a little bit different of an interface, so that's why I wanted to show it to you. So if you go up here on the top, there's a check mark. So if I click on that check mark, actually click on the check mark, there we go. You can see all of the PIDs checked off. So all I got to do is go up to the top right-hand side where it has the 2 check marks over no check marks. Click on that, deselects them. Then say I want the engine speed and I want my oxygen sensors, right? So oxygen sensors, and then my short and long-term fuel trims. Okay, there we go. Have them all selected. Now, it used to be up to a couple of years ago, you hit the back button, it would save it. Then they changed something in the software, which we're going to talk about here in a second. So now we have this check mark. You have to hit the check mark to save that custom data list. So now I have the short list with just my fuel trims and my oxygen sensors and my engine speed. And we could, of course, go back to a PID list and you'd be able to see that list on the screen. Much shorter list than what we had before. Right. So that's custom data list. So we looked at 16 PIDs on a screen. Then we were able to customize that list down to however many we wish. So we can get down to 2 or 3 if that's all we wanted. Now let's look at something a little bit different, a little tweak they made with this function, with the custom data list. There we go. That's what I was trying to think of. Was the custom data list function. Certain manufacturers, I think I've found 15 manufacturers where this works. Some of them will let you build a custom data list, so to speak, if you want to call it that. So I'm going to look up a Chrysler on this in this example. So I'm going to go my Chrysler under demo mode and do a Chrysler 300 with a 3.6, pretty standard car, right? And then, it gives me secure vehicle gateway stuff on the screen as well. So if you've never seen that, this is what that looks like. This is just demo mode, so it's going to let me in anyways. Just tells me it's unlocked. I can get in, and then it gives me a little unlocked icon on the top as well, so I can know I can get in there. So we go to engine, and we're going to choose data once more. And I'll just go into the first category. That's all we're going to do. Wait for it to load here. While I'm doing that, I might as well load the same vehicle over here too, right? There we go. Almost there. Don't know why I picked this car. All right. There we go. It's building in there. Okay. So the demo mode, it's not liking this car today. All right, so there's my data. I can still go to custom. I'm going to go to custom on the top. And you'll see now it looks a little bit different with custom. So this gives me all of the data categories, and I can pick PIDs from each category to make more of like a master custom data list for the vehicle. So let me go into data over there. I'll get that loading. So I have all of my engine. I'm going to unselect all my engine. I want to look at just, let's see, sensor volts. I'll look at sensor volts, Let's look at AC clutch relay. Sure, why not? And then in the oxygen sensors, we already have a couple selected, but let's say I also want to look at air charge temp. And then I can pull out of the throttle. I can pull out the electronic throttle control starter inhibit. And we have that. And then accessories, I want to pull out exhaust valve. All right, so between all of these categories, we now have a list of a few PIDs from each category. I can go back into my list view or my graph view, and it would pull up what I want to see. All right, so it's going to pull up my list from across all those different data categories. And that's pretty cool. We added that a few years ago. There's, like it says, about 15 different manufacturers. So we're looking at Acura, BMW, Chrysler, Dodge, Ford, Honda, Jeep, Lexus, Mazda, Mercedes, Nissan, Ram, Scion, Subaru, and Toyota all have vehicles that support this functionality in there. We can build the custom data list across different lists. Now, if you're using intelligent diagnostics, that does it automatically for you in the background. So it will build across custom data lists. That's another feature or function inside the tool that'll let you do that as well. Now, one other thing I'd like to mention is on a real live vehicle, if you and you're not in demo mode like I am, you would now see a custom list on the top of the list as well, because it will save a custom data list at the top. Oh, actually, on this tool, I'm sorry. On this tool, on the Windows tools, has custom list up on the top there. So that brings you back to the existing custom list you already had. That's right, they moved it. So custom list goes up here, and then on the Triton, which I'll show you in a second, it's going to be at the top of the list. So let's go back to the Triton. Here I am in my 2019 Chrysler again. I'm going to engine data. If I click on it, there we go. Collect some data. I said simulator takes a little while. There we go. So now I can go up and build my custom data list on my non-Windows tool. Once again, we get the check mark, but we get a different look again. We get that drop down with the arrows. I'm going to uncheck that. Let's look at that and that. And then maybe we'll look at, let's look at not oxygen sensor stuff. Let's go way down. Let's do like this and this. And then we'll look at ignition. Let's do that one. Okay. And this is why this check mark is now here on the top left. So that check mark is because that's telling them we're done and we're not just backing out. So we're done choosing from all of the different categories. So now that I'm done, it's going to bring me back and give me my master custom data list, so to speak. Now, if I back out of here, we should see, like I said, if you're on a live vehicle, oh no, they did change it again. So it's up over here on the right-hand side now. See, this is new to me too. So up on the right-hand side, that brings you over your custom lists again, or you can make a custom list right from Go. All right, so that is pretty cool there as well. All right, so that is data there. Let me switch back to my Zeus. Okay, so let's see. We looked at 16 PIDs at once. We did a custom data list. We did a custom data list where we could go across multiple different data categories in there. What else can we do? Let's see. What else should we look at? Let's look at in guided component tests now. So we'll go from the scanner side, we'll go over to the scope side. So we go into guided component tests. Now we talk about this in many of our classes, but really inside training classes has a wealth of knowledge, especially, well, some power user tests is a class on power user functions. What's better than a power user test, right? So we have current probe tests, such as, we got to select our current probe first. Fuel injectors, fuel pump, ignition coils, low amp probe, reference manual, and parasitic draw testing, all using a low amps probe. All right, so that is that. We also have inside power users test, dual channel tests, so CAN bus, flex ray, pre and post oxygen sensor, cam and crank relationship, injector, oxygen sensor, both throttle position sensors, because most drive-by-wire vehicles have two, Hall effect, wheel speed sensors, et cetera, multiple bits of information in there. So these are tests that we can do, and they're preset generic tests for your vehicle. All right, for any vehicle that would have that system on there. So it's more of a generalized test. If you wanted a more vehicle specific test, you can go in and ID the vehicle, inside guided component test, and get there that way. Ignition, we have the different types of ignition systems we can test, and pressure transducer tests. All right, fuel pressure, back pressure, fuel pressure, and fuel pump current, etc. Speaking of pressure probes, in how-to, there's also a class on pressure probes. 10-minute running compression waveform class. So I get asked about running compression waveforms all the time. So you can actually go inside the tool and read through how the running compression waveform is supposed to look. So we have our compression, we have our exhaust stroke, etc. And you can see how it looks, and it describes a lot about it. So if you wanted to read further about that and get a little bit more information on that, that is also available inside the tool as well. We may do a class on that sometime in the future, but not today. All right, so that is that. Next thing I want to do, I want to show you like what I think is the coolest of the power user functions that we have. And we've been doing this for many, many years, but still a lot of people don't realize they can do it, or they don't know how to do it on a vehicle. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to look at data. I want to look at my evap data, let's say. So I'm going to look for something with an evap sensor problem. All right, so I can go in here and, or maybe it's fuel level sensor. Let's look at the fuel level sensor. All right, so I have a fuel level problem, and I see 0 volts in my fuel level sensor. So that's a problem. But am I getting voltage out of that fuel level sensor? Do I have voltage to the fuel level sensor? Do I have voltage coming out? Just because the PID says so doesn't mean that it's not actually working. It could be a break in the line somewhere. Could be something wrong at the back. Could be unplugged for all we know, right? So I want to be able to check both at the same time. I want to be able to check this information, the scanner data, the computer's interpretation, and I also want to be able to test the sensor itself, right? So all I'd have to do is leave this running. Now this is only available to do on a Windows-based tool, but I can show you something pretty close on the new Triton in a second. But on the Windows-based tools, we can definitely do this. So this is my scan data. Leave that running. Go to the home screen. Go to my guided component test. Now I need to load my vehicle. Now, since I have to load my demonstration there. Okay, and then under engine. And then we should have the fuel system. And then we have the fuel level sensor. Right, so this is guided component test. There's over 5 million tests. Goes back to 1981. And it's VIN specific information. All right, so we could go in here. That gives us a resistance test. I could go into component information and see how it works. We could do a resistance test on that. I guess that was probably a bad choice. So let's go to fuel injector, and we'll just check the signature test. Fuel injector signature test. All right, so that's just going to bring me to a test that I can do here. All right, and then I see a voltage going across the screen, right? About 5.6 volts. Now, let's say, just forget that this was that I went into a fuel injector instead of into the fuel sensor. So this is 5 volts. And let's say we're at the fuel level sensor itself measuring 5 volts. Now, I want to be able to see that versus what I'm seeing on my scan tool. So on the Windows tools, we can go from the guided component test, hit meter once, meter twice, gives us this window that we can move around. Once we've done that, We can go back to the home screen, go back into the scanner. Here's my data still recording. Go down to the bottom where the double arrows are. Pull up my scope viewer. I can now see what's going on at the component, and I can see what's coming out of the computer and see if they match. I can also snap it to one side and snap that to the other side, so I can see what's going on the same screen at the same time. Right. So I can see what's going on at the sensor, and I can see what's going on at the computer, and they do not match. If I see voltage here and this is good, and I don't see voltage here at the computer, the break is somewhere in between, right? It's not making it all the way back, but I know the component's doing what it's supposed to do, because let's say that 5 volts is good for whatever condition we're in. So this is good, that is not. Then we need to trace the wire back, find out, plug it in at the computer next. See if you get 5 volts there. If you do, then it's internal in the computer. If you don't get 5 volts there, you work your way back through other connectors, or where do we lose the voltage, right? You may find maybe a mouse chewed through the wire underneath the seat in the back of the car. I've seen that 100 times for fuel level sensor problems, right? How about if I wanted to take this another step further? So I'm looking at data, that's great. What if I wanted to run a test at the same time and see the result? So now let's say hypothetical, let's go into a functional test and output controls, and then we will find the evap. Let's say vent solenoid is not working. All right, vent solenoid is using the back of the vehicle. Okay, so we can continue. Evap vent solenoid, and then we could see the voltage going up and down, right? If we had it. Actually, that's for my they added these little eyes here too, which tells us what they are when they're smaller, which is nice. Test status, test status, test status. All right, let's say we're looking at fuel tank pressure sensor. No, we can't do that because all the vent would work with that too. All right. So let's just say we're gonna open and close it, venting and not venting. We should be able to see it cycle back and forth. We'd see the voltage cycle back and forth between 12 volts and no volts, go to between venting and not venting in there. So as we switch it back and forth, we'd be able to see the voltage result over here, because on the left-hand side, this is functioning the solenoid. The ECM is sending the command to the solenoid, so it should be able to turn itself on and off. If we see it turn itself on and off, we should see the voltage change on the right-hand side. So we can actually check what's going on at the component and what's going on at the computer, or do a actuation test as well with that. Okay, that is that. And then I promised I would show you how we might be able to simulate something similar on the new Triton. So let me switch that back over here. All right, so we go to data. It's going to be similar, but we can't do screen and screen on the Triton, but we can do, oops, I'm on the wrong vehicle here. Hold on a second. Need to exit my vehicle, get back in my demo truck. Okay, engine, data. See, there's that custom list on the top now. So I can go in engine data. And there's all my engine data. Now I could do my graphs if I wanted to. 1, 2, 3, 4 graphs. I want to do 4 graphs. Now from here, I could still go to guided component tests, and it will bring my Tahoe over, so I can go look over here. Say I wanted to look at maybe, well, let's look at the evap system again. Purge solenoid, signature test. All right, so we can see that. We hit the meter. So we can have the meter going over here. I can also make it full screen. Oops, that's this one. Got to do the right thing. There we go. Okay, I can make it full screen. I can look it over there, and then I can switch back to my scanner, which is still running. All right, so I can flip back and forth without having to re-ID a car, which is the new function on this. But apparently I lose the meter when I do that. But we can still be in the meter on one screen, and then we can switch back to the scanner. We can switch back and forth in between the two, and at least maybe use our memory in between to see what the difference is between the patterns, and be able to look at that on both screens. So that is, I think, all we have for you this evening. Been about half an hour worth there. So let's get to talk about next week. And I see I got a couple questions up there. Wow, hello from Romania and Portugal on YouTube. Thanks for watching, everybody over in Europe there. That's cool. So next week we have we're running back. We went through our 5 batch of classes this time. We're going to start our batch of 5 over again. So we're going to do our Intro to LabScope class live again next week. So if you want to register and watch us live on Zoom, you can go to snapon.com/OT and register there for Zoom or YouTube. The early class gets streamed to YouTube. The late class actually gets streamed to Facebook on my Facebook page. If you are watching on YouTube, please make sure you subscribe and make sure you hit that little bell icon to make sure you get notified every time we go live, because I do this pretty much weekly. So if you go to youtube.com/Snap-on Diagnostics, if you're not there, and you can watch all of our other videos. Now, I do ask on occasion, you folks on Zoom who've joined us on Zoom before, when we leave Zoom, there is a little poll that comes up or survey and says, are there any classes that you'd like to see done in the future? Now, I am listing here because sometimes, actually fairly often, I get asked to do classes that we've already done before. So we have 16. This will be the 17th class recorded to YouTube. So if you go to youtube.com/Snap-on Diagnostics, there is a playlist for live streams, and this will be all of these different classes. So there's 16: data bus testing, code-based workflow, thermal imager, module setup, intro to LabScope, intro to ADOS. All right, so all of these classes are available on YouTube already. And then, of course, you can still join us live here for any of the 5 class material that we do. And then we'll have another 5 classes after these next 5. So we just keep repeating. We do a block of 5, repeat, and then we do another block of 5 and repeat. That way you're able to catch them live and ask your questions if you would like to do so. Also coming up, figured I'd mention, I will be presenting at the ASA X50 Automotive Conference and Expo. That is April 30th through May 1st. It is virtual. So if you go to asax50.vfairs.com, you can register for the whole event. It takes place, as I said, over 2 days. Dozens of presenters on many, many different topics. It's a wealth of knowledge. If you go to that, there is a fee to register. I don't know how much it is, but there is a fee. But like I said, it is great training, and you can take it, and you have access to the classes for up to 30 days after the class starts as well. So pretty much all of May, you would have access to those classes. So that's pretty cool. And then we are doing a free webinar in conjunction with P10 and Motor Age on May 5th. More information will be on that as to where to register and stuff coming in the next couple of days. So keep an eye out for that as well. So now let's get to questions. While I'm looking at questions, don't forget about Al either. Al is a wealth of Snap-on Diagnostics knowledge, and he takes you through tool training, platform training through the Apollo, the Zeus, and the Triton. So he does Apollos on Mondays, the Zeus on Wednesdays, and the Triton on Thursdays. So if you want to learn a little bit more about your tool, that's a good place to go. He walks you all the way through setting up your Wi-Fi, through setting up your free Snap-on Cloud account, which is a good thing, all the way through soup to nuts, start to finish, code to completion, whatever you want to call it, on intelligent diagnostics. Walks you through the whole what and the why and how we would do that. And then on the Zeus and Triton class as well, after a short break in the middle, you'll go through the guided component testing and scope functions on the tool as well. So very thorough class. Paul's about an hour. Zeus and Triton run closer to 2 hours because they have that extra scope and scope training at the end. So definitely keep an eye out, register for that as well, and or let your friends know. So let's look at questions. Claude, I think you got ahead of me there. I think that's what that question is. So can you bring the waveform up at the same time you're looking at the pattern? And yes, you can. So I just showed how we can do that screen and screen on the Zeus. And then we do the flipping back and forth on the Triton D10 only because it has the different operating system where you can run both things at once. So I hope that got answered your question there, Claude. Thanks for that. Any other questions? I'll give you another minute or two just to ask them, type them out. If you're watching on YouTube, please feel free to use the chat. Got another one there. All right, Claude, you're very welcome. Glad I could help. Hope you guys got some little good takeaways out of this, little nuggets as to what the scanner can do. There's so many different functions on the tool. If you get down to specific vehicles, the list gets even longer. So I tried to keep it to things that we could do fairly universally. Like I said, there are 15 brands that do that custom data list. But other than that, it's pretty universal on just about any vehicle on any Snap-on scan tool. We can do these functions. So hopefully you can take some of those away, maybe use them in the shop tomorrow morning when you get there, or maybe you're still in the shop. I don't know what time zone it is where you're at. So with that, I'd like to thank everybody very much for taking the time out of their week to come and join us and hopefully get a little bit more knowledge on how to use your tool better this week. So that's always going to help with our diagnostic workflow as we go. So with that, take care of yourselves, stay safe out there, and hopefully we'll see you next week. Thank you very much. Oh, I got one more question. Gerardo asks, on the Zeus, can we do the same as Triton with the swapping screens? Yes, you could. You could still switch back and forth. Actually, let me pop that up there. Let me get my escape out of that. So instead of doing next to each other, we could just back up here. We could go, I want to do data, right? So we could just simply hit the home screen, go back to Got a Component Test, and that'll bring us over there as well. And we can switch back and forth just by hitting the home button as well. But with the Windows-based tool on the Zeus, you can get the side-by-side and you can panel them like that. So you don't have to switch back and forth as well. Good question, Gerardo. All right. With that, once again, thank you very much for joining us. And hopefully we'll see you next week. Hopefully you got a little bit out of this, and stay safe out there. Appreciate your time, and we'll see you again next time. Take care.